Gentlemen, you took the right road.
Doug Jones, the first Alabama Democrat in a quarter century to be elected to the United States Senate.
We have shown not just around the state of Alabama, but we have shown the country the way that we can be unified.
Part of the problem with this campaign is we've been painted in an unfavorable and unfaithful light. It's not over, and it's going to take some time. Thank you.
10,000 text messages between FBI agent Peter Strzok, who was taken off the Mueller investigation, and Strzok's alleged mistress, an FBI lawyer named Lisa Page.
In just the last 2 months, we've seen 2 terrorist attacks in New York City, carried out by men who were here as a result of failed immigration policies.
The lottery system and chain migration, we're going to end them fast.
Christmas party,
That's
our holiday party.
I know, we're all excited. We usually do bowling. Today we're doing karaoke. Are you going to sing?
Listen to your voice right now. I want to hear that.
I can't sing normally, much less today.
And that's why Brian Kilmeade had to leave town, because he hates karaoke, and today in his place we've got
like a stray dog out from the cold, and it's real cold out here. My doggy foster parents are here to take care of me. Thank you, Stephen Ainsley.
We're glad to have you on the curvy couch. Alabama spoke yesterday.
Oh, yeah,
they sure did. And that is our Fox News alert and our lead this morning. An upset in Alabama for the Republicans. Democrat Doug Jones pulling off a win against Republican Roy Moore in that special election to fill the Senate seat left vacant by now Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
But Moore says it is not over.
Jonathan Siri is live in Montgomery, Alabama with the latest for us. Jonathan?
Good morning, Ainsley, Steve, and Todd. Ordinarily, the Republican candidate would be a shoo-in the solidly red state of Alabama, but allegations of sexual impropriety against Republican Roy Moore.
This campaign has been about common courtesy and decency and making sure everyone in this state, regardless of which zip code you live in, is going to get a fair shake in life.
But Roy Moore, who rode to the polls on horseback, has yet to concede the race. His campaign hoping Moore's vote count would come within half a percentage point of Jones, which would trigger a recount.
I really want to thank you for coming tonight and realize when the vote is this close that it's not over. And we've still got to go by the rules about this recount provision.
But with Jones coming in with 49.9% of the vote to Moore's 48.4, which is a 1.5 point difference, a recount appears unlikely. President Trump weighed in on Twitter saying, "Congratulations to Doug Jones on a hard-fought victory. The write-in votes played a very big factor, but a win is a win. The people of Alabama are great, and the Republicans will have another shot at this seat in a very short period of time. It never ends." And the president may have a point when it comes to those write-in votes. Alabama voters cast nearly 23,000 write-in votes, which was larger than the margin of victory. And in advance of this election, many Republicans were saying, I can't vote for a Democrat, but I'm going to write in a conservative other than Roy Moore. Back to you guys.
All right, Jonathan Siri, thank you very much. Keep in mind, a lot of people down in Alabama wrote in the name of Luther Strange. Luther Strange is the guy who currently is holding the seat temporarily until a new senator is seated. Donald Trump supported Luther Strange in the beginning, said Roy Moore could not win. But here's the thing. Donald Trump and Steve Bannon essentially were at loggerheads over this particular seat because Steve Bannon wants to drain the swamp. He feels Mitch McConnell is the swamp, and Mitch McConnell supported Luther Strange. So in turn, he was going to support the other guy, Judge Roy Moore.
Well, then Jones caught a break when all these allegations came out against Judge Moore. The environment was really bad. The story, I felt like, was it was just horrific. It was hard for women especially to go to the polls and vote for him, even though those allegations were just allegations. And even though it happened so long ago, this was not a referendum on Trump. I feel like it was a referendum on Harvey Weinstein.
And look, I don't want to be Pollyanna Pirro here, but let's not forget, there are still 51 GOPs, 49 Dems starting in January. And also, here's a few other takeaways. Unless Doug Jones wants to go completely scorched earth with liberal policies, he's a Democrat in Alabama, which is called a Republican in the rest of the world. And let's not forget, he is going to have to answer to his constituents, a majority of which voted for him, who are Republican. So let's go look at some key issues here. Immigration. Do you think Alabama people want open borders? B, do you think in terms of welfare reform, which is one of Donald Trump's big ticket items for 2018, do you think Alabamans don't want welfare reform?
Well, Todd,
I'm being Pollyanna Pirro here.
The political reality is, though, he's going to vote exactly as Chuck Schumer tells him to.
You think so?
True. Absolutely.
Don't you think that puts him in a bad position, though, in 2020 when Sessions is back after a stint as AG?
Well, that's what they were saying about Claire McCaskill, about all sorts of Republican or Democrats who are currently in states that Donald Trump won. Anyway, we're going to be talking about that all throughout the morning. Doug Jones, the big winner in Alabama.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, let's switch to, is there a bias at the FBI and particularly at the Mueller investigation? It sure looks like it. Remember, we told you about Peter Strzok, this guy who had a girlfriend who was one of the attorneys on the Mueller case. They sent 10,000 anti-Trump emails, text messages back and forth, and Fox News yesterday obtained 375 of them. Turns out they hate Trump.
They hate him. They worked at the FBI. They worked on this investigation. Here are some of those text messages. This is from Lisa Page, the girl. God, Trump is loathsome, a loathsome human. Then he says, yet he might win. He says many win, which means I guess might win. Then he says, good for Hillary. OMG, he's an idiot. God, Hillary should win. 100 million to 0.
Right. That was the day after the Republican debate here on Fox. Here's another one from August the 6th. And I tell you what we'll do, Ainsley. You play Page, and I'll play Strzok.
All right. Okay. And maybe you're meant to stay where you are because you're meant to protect the country from that menace.
Thanks. It's absolutely true that we're both very fortunate. And, of course, I'll try and approach it just that way. I just know it will be tough at times. I can protect our country at many levels. Not sure if that helps.
So shady. Okay, I understand they're allowed to have their political opinions. They're dating, whatever. They're sending their opinions back and forth. But when she says, I'm so glad you're a part of this investigation because it's your job to save our country.
Yeah.
And he says, yes, I'm so fortunate that I'm a part of this investigation. That's how I'm reading it.
And take a look at this passage. This was the day of the final debate. He says, I am riled up. Trump is an effing idiot, is unable to provide a coherent answer.
There you go. You guys got to play actors today. I'm just going to cue it up to Jay Sekulow. Here's what he has to say with regard to the underlying issue of if these individuals are in the Bob Mueller team, should Bob Mueller be leading that team, or should we have a special counsel to investigate Bob Mueller? Take a listen.
At the end of the day, you have to say, how is this allowed to continue? Why is this not? Why are these people not terminated? And you know what the answer to that is? And people don't like when you say it, but it is the deep state. It's the bureaucrats.
All right, there have been a number of individuals on our air who say, look, I'm not at that point yet. A number of major Republicans who say, Bob Mueller really is a Boy Scout, and, you know, we still need to give him the benefit of the doubt, allow him to do this investigation. But at the end of the day, as somebody who went to law school, and whose law school is basically 20% on one side, 20% on the other side, 60% people who just love the game of law, you can't tell me that Bob Mueller can't find somebody in that 60% who says, I am willing to join this investigation, be nonpartisan, and do the best job I can for my country to uncover the truth.
Well, and keep in mind, those text messages, apparently, I'm being told, were before the investigation.
That's exactly
before
right.
The Mueller investigation.
Surely.
But those are his opinions.
And both of them are off the case. He wasn't fired from the FBI. He was put in HR, and she was removed from the case as one of the Mueller attorneys and has returned to investigating things at the FBI. But I tell you what, it's not just that case where it looks like there's a Trump bias. Look at the media bias of President Trump. In the last 3 months, the Media Research Center did a survey and found that 90% of the coverage on ABC, NBC, and CBS on their evening news was anti-Trump.
Look at the month of September. 359 negative stories to 31 positive ones. October, 435 to 41 positives. And then November, 320 negative stories and only 33 positive stories. And these are statements from reporters and nonpartisan sources.
We say this all the time on this couch. You don't have to like the individual at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But at the end of the day, as a journalist, you have to be objective when he has done something right. And you can't say that the stock market, which is above 24,000, a number nobody has really ever seen before, nobody has ever seen before, period. You got to give the man credit for that.
Just make it equal. Make it equal. Even if you have people on that give their opinions, just try to make it fair and balanced and
right, but it's the nightly news. There shouldn't be any opinion.
True,
it should be just, here's what happened today. But that happened
Those
a long
days
time
are
ago.
long gone, Steve.
Yeah, those are the days of Walter Cronkite.
Right.
That's the way it was. Oh, well. 6:11 now here in New York City, and Jillian joins us here in Studio F.
Good morning. I'll give you guys some news right now. I'll give you some headlines of the morning. Good morning to you at home. North Korea vowing to beef up their nuclear arsenal as nations around the world warn them it's time to stop. Dictator Kim Jong-un telling scientists he wants to increase the quality and number of deadly weapons. But Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says now is the time for diplomacy.
We're ready to talk anytime North Korea would like to talk. And we're ready to have the first meeting without precondition. It's not realistic to say we're only going to talk if you come to the table ready to give up your program. They have too much invested in it.
Last month, North Korea launched its most advanced missile yet, potentially capable of striking anywhere in the U.S. President Trump signing a $700 billion defense policy bill to support our nation's heroes.
With the signing of this defense bill, we accelerate the process of fully restoring America's military might. We need our military. It's got to be perfecto.
The bill includes money for core Pentagon operations, as well as funding for overseas missions and missile defense, and new equipment and pay raises for troops. But there's a catch. Congress must now roll back a 2011 law that restricts defense spending at $549 billion. President Trump making good on another key campaign promise.
We have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
ICE arresting more than 100 illegal criminals in New Jersey wanted for deportation violations. And as one state cooperates, Attorney General Jeff Sessions is again blasting the city of Baltimore for its sanctuary policy. Baltimore is one of dozens of jurisdictions in the U.S. that prevent local police from working with ICE. That's a look at your headlines. I will send it back to you guys.
You're right. A lot going on.
Yep.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thanks, Jillian. Well, first he wore socks depicting officers as pigs, and now Colin Kaepernick is sparking a new wave of outrage from police. And this time officers say he's putting their lives in danger.
And with the allegations of bias on Robert Mueller's investigative team, the president's attorneys say it's time for another special counsel. But our next guest from the Wall Street Journal says let Mueller keep digging. He will explain. President Trump's attorneys calling for another special counselor to investigate the investigators involved in the Mueller probe. As we learned many of them, but in a new op-ed titled Let Mueller Keep Digging, our next guest writes, if the president fires Mr. Mueller now, it will look as though he has something to hide. If another special counsel is appointed, it will further diminish the proper investigative authority here. Joining us right now is Main Street columnist for the Wall Street Journal and a former speechwriter for George W. Bush and a Fox News contributor. Man, he's got a long business card. Bill McGurn joins us live. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
You look at our lead story in politics, where 375 of those text messages between the FBI investigator and the FBI lawyer, they hate Trump. That kind of makes the case somebody should be investigating the investigators.
Right. Well, look, they even Mr. Mueller recognized that because he took the guy off the case. I mean, the question is, was the agent he was having an affair with the FBI lawyer who was also on the case. I mean, there are conflicts of interest all over the place. So I would like things investigated, but the proper authority for investigating the government is the United States Congress, the elected representatives of the American people.
Well, the FBI director, Christopher Wray, went in front of the Congress last week and essentially said, I'd love to tell you, but I can't because we've got this investigation going on.
It's an incredible assertion for this. Look, I start with the mantra that special prosecutors corrupt and independent prosecutors corrupt absolutely. So I'm against a special prosecutor to begin with. And that's why I think the answer for these people if President Trump fires Mr. Mueller now, it'll look like he has something to hide. I think Mr. Mueller's team is doing a lot to discredit itself, so I'd let that go. Second, for some people in Congress, along with Mr. Trump's lawyer, calling for a special investigator, basically for the special prosecutor.
Right.
I think if the problem is someone doing something in an unaccountable way in the darkness, that the answer is to throw another one on top of the heap, I think that's incredible. Congress, first of all, President Trump could declassify a lot of this information. The president is the ultimate declassifier, the declassifier.
So what would you like him to declassify?
I'd like to declassify, to start with, what the FBI knows about the Steele dossier, and particularly, was it used by the FBI to gain FISA warrants to listen in on members of Trump's team? We don't need all the details, but just did the FBI use it? And then if they did use it, did they have any doubts about the veracity of the information?
Because the FBI director last week said, I can't divulge what was in that FISA warrant, and then, you know.
Which is nonsense. He can say whether the dossier was used. And the president's team should be out there trying to make as much of this public as possible. Presumably, Mr. Trump has an interest in transparency if he's telling the truth that there was no collusion and no obstruction.
So let Robert Mueller do his job, have the president declassify that FISA stuff, and if Congress isn't going to get answers, cut off the funding to the FBI.
Yeah, Congress can do a lot. It has the power of the purse, has the power to impeach, and it has the power to hold people in contempt and, in fact, jail them until they testify. I think Congress blew it on Lois Lerner, and they're paying the price for that now, that no one takes them seriously.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I read all about it in the Wall Street Journal. Bill, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Straight ahead, after that botched subway bombing here in New York City, is a drone attack next. Our next guest used drones to hunt terrorists and has a scary warning. And is The Rock cooking up a presidential run? A big hint.
24 minutes after the hour now on a Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for being here. Some quick headlines now. A team from the NTSB on the way to Iowa to investigate a deadly school bus fire. 2 people, the 74-year-old driver and a 16-year-old girl, killed after the bus backed out of a driveway, fell into a ditch, and burst into flames near Des Moines. The cause still unknown. And we now know it was an illegal campfire that sparked one of these 6 wildfires raging across Southern California. The Los Angeles Fire Department says it caused the Skirball fire, torching mansions in Bel Air. But so far, no arrests. Ainsley and Steve?
Wow, both of those stories are pretty horrific.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd.
All right, it is a popular tech toy. Many kids want it for Christmas, and a potentially deadly assault weapon, actually. After the explosion here in New York City in the subway, experts worry a drone attack could be next.
Yesterday, we spoke to former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis about the threat, and he said this about drones.
As the technology becomes more reliable and the payload becomes larger for these devices, which you can buy easily on the internet, the problem is that we have nothing in our arsenal to stop them from coming in. So it's really a problem.
Here to discuss, we've got former Special Operations Intel analyst and author of Drone Warrior, an elite soldier's inside account of the hunt for America's most dangerous enemies, Brett Velikovich. Brett, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning.
You know, when we had this terror strike a couple of days ago here in New York, this guy took the homemade pipe bomb, strapped it to himself, and went into that tunnel over by the Port Authority and detonated it. And so ultimately he's in the hospital because he almost, got burned up pretty bad. But ultimately, for a terrorist who wants to inflict damage on New York City, they could put a couple of grenades on a drone and they wouldn't even get hurt. So what's to stop them?
Well, you're absolutely right. And the fact is that areas like New York City are particularly vulnerable because there's high concentration of people and that it allows for a greater blast radius. And the fact is that ISIS has proven that this is an effective tool on the battlefield. It's been nearly 2 years since we saw the first commercial use of a drone in Iraq, where ISIS fighters took explosives, strapped them to a drone, and dropped them over coalition forces. And terrorist groups are looking for tools like this to conduct attacks domestically. And so with the availability of cheap consumer drones, really it's just a matter, it's not a matter of if this will happen, but when.
Brett, that is so scary if that happened here in the U.S. Do we have any mechanism set up through our government to stop a drone?
We do, but the fact is that you know, the U.S. government has yet to really embrace this technology. There are a number of different devices that are being built that can actually counter this drone threat. Even the manufacturers themselves know that this is something that they need to fix. So there are systems out there that groups like the Port Authority and NYPD should be using and putting these devices in their command center that have the ability to detect drones within a 5 to 10 mile radius, have the ability to determine the trajectory of them, where the pilot is that's actually operating them. And then there's also a number of systems, some that we've shown on your program before, that have the ability to jam the signal of those drones and actually stop them from conducting a mass casualty attack.
I know here in the New York City area, the Port Authority is so concerned about drones, they stopped selling them near the airport because there was a problem out at JFK. But Brett, tell us a little bit about geofence. What is geofence? Could that help?
Sure. So geofencing is a technology that's used to essentially act as a virtual fence or a virtual perimeter where the drone is unable to actually fly into a particular area. Some of the manufacturers that have developed drones will actually put geofencing into the software so that a drone is unable to fly in a particular area. The thing about New York City, you know, it's great when it's used, and you know, there are methods, you know, potentially to hack that, and that's why you do need a layered counter drone approach if you're going to take on this strategy. But in New York City in particular, it's a no-fly zone, but the geofence around that city is not like it is in Washington, D.C. If you try to fly, say, a DJI drone, some of the drones you're showing right there on the screen, into Washington, D.C., it'd actually be blocked from flying over those locations. That doesn't exist in New York City. That only really exists around the airports. And so you have the ability to fly around a particular, you know, spots and conduct these attacks, and that's a dangerous thing. So geofencing is definitely something that needs to be more prolific and used to counter this threat.
Maybe it will be. This is something new. So thank you so much, Brett.
Yeah, nice to see you.
All right. Straight ahead on this Wednesday, he kicked off the national anthem protests across the NFL. He wore socks depicting officers as pigs. Well, now Colin Kaepernick is sparking a new wave of outrage. This time, cops say he just put their lives in danger.
And ladies, have you ever felt like this?
Members of the National Guard, which today is celebrating 381 years in existence.
Wonderful. Some of them were there at the subway bombing, kept our country safe, our city safe. So we're so grateful for what our men and women who serve our country do for us.
Because here in New York City, a number of National Guardsmen are posted permanently to places like the Port Authority. My daughter, who takes the bus in from New Jersey every day, sees them, always says thank you. Thank you for your service.
I love
Absolutely.
They do so many things besides what you think they do. They've got their hands in so many things that make our country better.
And if you're not familiar with what they do, we're going to talk to them and find out what their duties are and how they protect you and your family.
In the meantime, there are about 50 of them here, but we've got to all be quiet for a second because Jillian's going to join us right now with the news.
That's right. Just a couple seconds here. Let's get you caught up this morning. Starting with this, prison guards outraged over Colin Kaepernick's surprise visit to inmates at Rikers Island. The former 49ers quarterback, known for kneeling during the national anthem, speaking out about police brutality and social injustice in New York City. The president of the Corrections Officers Union slamming the visit, telling the Daily News, quote, "This will only encourage inmates to continue to attack correction officers at a time when we need more protection." The 10 Commandments will soon stand outside the Arkansas State Capitol once again. A commission clearing the way for the monument after a man plowed through and destroyed the original marker less than 24 hours after it was put up in June. The new monument will include 4 concrete posts for protection. It will be installed in the coming weeks. From the big screen to the Oval Office, The Rock once again fueling the rumors about a 2020 run.
Seriously, would you run?
I'm seriously considering it, yes.
Well, you did.
The pro wrestler turned movie star telling Ellen about his possible career change. This isn't the first time he's hinted about getting on the ballot. He previously said the people's president has a really nice ring to it. We'll keep you posted. All right, how about this? New proof the man flu may not just be a myth after all. A Canadian researcher claims men have a weaker immune response when it comes to viruses and colds. So as a result, the symptoms are worse and they last longer. And we all feel very sorry, guys.
I knew it! I knew it! All right, so there is a man flu.
They're babies. They are just. There's a reason we have the babies. We deliver the babies.
Steve and I are
Y'all
staying away
can't
from
handle it.
You have special immunity.
Yeah. Well, we're
right.
just stronger.
All right, Janice Dean is outside. And Janice, this is you're upstairs.
Yes, because it's cold outside.
Exactly.
And we brought the National Guard here inside as well, because that's how cold it is. And we're going to say happy birthday to them in just a moment. But look at the wind chill. Right now, it is about 10 degrees, what it feels like with the winds in New York City. So that's why we're inside. 13 in New York later on. But watch this. So this is the forecast wind chill as we go through the next 12 to 24 hours. We just have shot after shot of cold air moving in. So this is Friday at 4 a.m., still in the teens in New York City. So you can see we've got that cold air pouring in and the chance for snow tonight and also as we get into the weekend, because the cold air is in place. We have these clipper systems moving across the Midwest and the Great Lakes. And overnight tonight, if you're up around, say, 2 a.m., we might actually get a little bit of snow in New York City. It's a quick mover, but we'll blast some snow in here. Then it will be out of the way. And then, of course, the temperatures are going to be remaining cold through Friday, Saturday, Sunday. A little bit of a warm up as we get into Monday for the Northeast. Here's your forecast today. Snow across the Great Lakes, the Midwest, downwind of those Great Lakes. We could get several inches of snow. Northern Rockies look at snow here. Central Plains look good today. Really nice today. Still breezy across Southern California. The fire threat remains elevated over the next couple of days into the weekend. All right, Steve, Ainsley, and Brian, big birthday today.
That's right.
That's right. That's it. Janice, today is the U.S. National Guard's birthday. They turned 381 years old.
They look good for 381. And today we're honoring them on this special holiday.
Joining us now, General Joseph Langell, along with Command Sergeant Major Chris Kepner and many members of the National Guard. First of all, congratulations on your big birthday. Next, I have to ask, why don't you tell us all the things that you do as National Guard members?
I don't know if we have enough time.
You probably don't have enough time here, but firstly, we're deployed all over the world as part of the Army and the Air Force, keeping America safe. We were just over there for Thanksgiving, serving turkey to troops in Afghanistan and Iraq and Kuwait and all over the Middle East. And so we do the warfight mission as part of our Army and Air Force every single day. And additionally, as many of you know, is we take care of response, and we're the governors and state response force to work with the first responders and the emergency responders when hurricanes happen. And
what about those fires out in California?
Last Friday I was with California. We have almost 2,000 California National Guard members out there working with emergency responders and CAL FIRES and the responders that are saving people's lives, helping evacuations, saving people's homes. I flew in a C-130 that dropped fire retardant on the fires itself. Unique skill sets practiced by the National Guard, and it's extremely well integrated.
Yeah. Sergeant Major, why did you enlist, and what does it mean to you to be to serve our country?
Ma'am, I tell you, it's a great honor to serve our country, and really I enlisted because I thought that service was something that I wanted to dedicate my life to, and now at this level I get to help shape other soldiers and airmen in their service as well.
That's terrific. Tell us about Empire Shield.
So, Empire Shield is a mission that our New York National Guardsmen do to assist local authorities here in New York City. And with
those
security.
are the guys and gals who were posted at the Port Authority a couple of days ago and leapt into action as soon as the bomb went off, right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. They did, and they were there right at the point of attack, if you will, to assist local law
They've been on duty since 9/11, and there's about 800 of them here. Colonel Pete Riley here, the commander of Task Force Empire Shield. You've seen him at Port Authority, Grand Central Station, or airports and stuff, and they were right there embedded right when the bomb went off just the other day.
Colonel, take this microphone and tell us a little bit about the men and women who...
Yes, I'm very proud of all the men and women of Joint Task Force Empire Shield. They responded right away when the attack happened. Within about a minute, I had 5 soldiers with their weapons drawn, along with Port Authority Police and NYPD, and they were able to secure the area. And then when they evacuated the bus terminal, they did very, very well. We're at all the bridges and tunnels here in New York City.
Airports.
We're at the airports. So if you ever go through JFK Airport, you're going to see Joint Task Force Empire Shield. You go through LaGuardia, you're going to see them. If you go through Grand Central, always very proud of them, keeping us safe. Right. Serving their country, their state.
It's fantastic.
And they're all fellow New Yorkers.
We see it all the time.
450,000 men and women in our National Guard nationwide, right?
Big part
That's
of
an
our
amazing number.
part of our Department of Defense. About 350,000 Army and 105,000 airmen. Big part of our Army and Air Force, and we're proud of it.
Well,
God bless you all. Thank you all.
Say hi to somebody right here.
Yes, of
What's your
course.
name?
It's Major Justin Wolf, ma'am.
And what made you get into the National Guard?
Let's get out of the way so we can
Essentially,
see.
I joined up in shortly after September 11th. I lived here in New York City since 1999, and it's been a fantastic opportunity. And thank everybody here, and obviously thank you for having us.
Okay. Saved 500 people in Hurricane Harvey. Look at this unit
God
right
bless
here.
you guys. Thank you for what you do today and every day.
Well, happy anniversary, National Guard, 381. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Proud to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We're so grateful.
All right, meanwhile, we were just talking about the Port Authority and how you guys have been guarding out there. A new report suggests the Port Authority attack shows the ISIS threat is evolving, not eliminated. So how does the president's terror strategy get rid of them once and for all? That is coming up.
Plus, Corey Lewandowski and David Boss.